Good evening, everybody. Man, I wish I could get some more light in here for you. Let's see if I can't put my seat back some, and maybe that'll give us more light. A little bit. It's gonna be a little dark video tonight. I'm not gonna sit out. It's kind of sprinkling outside, kind of freezing out there. I'm just gonna sit in my truck here. I hope it's okay for you as much as it's okay for me. Just gonna wait just a couple of minutes here, a couple of seconds here, see if there's any other viewers that want to get on board. See, I got 1, 2, 3, gosh. I probably got 30 pages here to go through today. 30 pages. It's gonna be a long video, so I guess kick back, relax, and enjoy the video, because it's going to be close to an hour, I think. Anywho, we'll get right on into it, I guess, huh? It says set reminder versus live feeds. Yeah, I did that little screenshot, and then I just went live, so I'd imagine a few people are probably still getting their messages. Hey, Dave, what's up, buddy? Stephanie, so you're there. So today was day 8 here in Crystal Falls, Michigan. I can tell you right off that David Thayer is still on the stand. He will be on the stand tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. They expect the jury will get deliberations tomorrow afternoon. They will get this case tomorrow. All right, well, let's begin, shall we? Pretty full courtroom today. Quite a few spectators. TB3, Iron River reporter, TB6 were all present this morning. All right, well, the morning started off without much testimony in person. Most of the people testifying were statements that were read to the jury. In one case, 2 of the lawyers portrayed, one portrayed the person being interviewed, and the other one portrayed the lawyer. Kind of a role play as to mostly what was said during pre-trial and a lot of stuff before. All right, well, I'm just going to rip through this because this isn't the juicy stuff. When David Thayer took the stand in this afternoon, that was the juicy stuff. And again, I hope you can hear me okay. I know my picture here is not the greatest at all. It is on my cell phone, so it's going to be low quality, but as long as you can hear me, I guess we're good to go. First off, we heard testimony from Kristen Meske. A written statement from her that she was employed by the city as a treasurer. Joanne says it's fine. Perfect. Thank you. She was employed as the treasurer in the city. She resigned in 2016 shortly after Thayer arrived. Wasn't able to adapt to his way. She says she left voluntarily, not because of David Thayer. Never heard any complaints about Laura. That was pretty much her basis of her statement. Edward Marcel, council member, he was not here in person. They read a statement. Council member Edward said he was unaware of any issues between David or Laura. He didn't know Thayer was going to fire her. He said he knew she was on leave. He also said that he felt intimidated by Laura after a visit. It was after the former manager quit and he was wanting to come back. Laura went to this council person's house and spoke with him, told him that if you guys rehire Perry, all sorts of crap is going to hit the fan and you're not going to like what happens. Now, he took that as a threat, as if Laura was saying that if you hired him back, I would take some action. I didn't see it that way. I didn't hear it that way, and I really don't think it went that way. He testified that the council meeting that went into a closed session to discuss David Thayer's evaluation was not that. He said it was not an evaluation. In fact, We talked about Laura in this session. We talked about how well Thayer fired Laura and took care of that situation. Now, at the time, if you remember that council meeting, they talked about, they were going into discussions to discuss employees. They were going into privacy to discuss an employee. And in all reality, Laura Thayer at that moment was no longer an employee. She had already been fired. The fact is, that was a closed meeting that was illegal and should have never been held. He says he gave Thayer a 65 out of 100 on the first review, and said, again, we did only discuss Laura in this closed session. He recalls he hastily filled out the evaluation, but he can't remember why. Maybe because you guys were talking about Laura? Maybe. He says Laura was awesome. She's a hard worker, and she's enjoyable to work with. Next statement, Lloyd Johnson. Again, he was not here. He was a consultant for computers that was hired under Perry, the previous manager, who testified he's not willing to work with Laura. He cited some text exchanges, which actually was an email. They went over the email. He talked again about how unwilling she was to work with him. He said that he could not work with someone with no computer knowledge. If you recall, Laura testified that she has no computer knowledge. She's computer illiterate. She does not understand things with a computer. It was really hard for her to bring a computer into her work and other stuff like that. He said she didn't understand password instructions and she lacked the ability for computer knowledge. And again, he testified he could not work with her because Laura had no computer experience. Talked about the texts from 2015. Talks about when Laura said the computer crashed, which was a Saturday. Laura sent pics saying she needed access. He looked at the pics and said, your hard drive is down. And he says Laura went off on him. However, in her text messages that she sent, she never swore. How do you go off on somebody in a text message if you don't swear? Ultimately, he ended up quitting. He did say that Wendy, Laura's clerk or secretary, was a bad employee who did not like men for some reason. Never got into that. Says he never heard Laura swear. He says he did hear Wendy say the F word. Says Laura stopped her but didn't discipline her, which he felt was very unprofessional. Now, this is a computer consultant who experienced her secretary saying the F word and saying Laura was unprofessional because Laura didn't discipline her in front of him. I would say that's actually very professional that she didn't discipline him or discipline her in front of people. I'm drinking coffee tonight, hoping that will help my voice. David Thayer was doing a lot of big sighs. Kept looking like to his lawyers for answers. Well, not that he's looking for, he was just watching him on up front today. He just, a lot of sighs and a lot of hand movements and a lot of twitching, which I'll get into in a little bit. He just acted like he was impatient or something. Anyway, next we heard from Jim Dellis. He was the older man who came into the police station with his cousin about the death certificate. You've heard me talk so much about this already. He was assisting his cousin to get the death certificate. He testified that Scott Delalis, a Michigan representative, an elected politician, told him in person or told him via telephone that the police report had never been filed. That's why the death certificate wasn't being released, because there was no police report. He testified that a state representative told him this. That's why he went to the police station. Dr. Yarber also told him that he sent his report to the state and tried to explain to Jim that it was a toxicology report that they were waiting on. In fact, he admits The doctor told him it was the toxicology reports before going to the police station. He didn't talk to Dr. Yarbrough about going to the police station. He just went to the police station because of what Representative Scott Dillala told him. He says he saw Rachel and Amanda in the hall when he went in. He says Laura screamed first. He says Laura was saying there wasn't. He was telling Laura there wasn't any police report, to which she got mad. He says he didn't swear when she said, "Get the F out of my office," then threatened to take him to jail. Says Laura told him the police report was filed. He left the office. He felt he didn't have a choice. He then went up to Rachel, who told him to report it to the city manager. He went up and sat with the city manager. Says his aunt came up afterwards, but he left before the conversation took place. His understanding is Yarbrough sent it all in. Says it was a police report that was the reason he was there. It also came out that Jim, the man that was doing all this complaining with his cousin, was renting a house to Laura's brother. So he's renting this house to Laura's brother, ended up evicting Laura's brother, and wound up, Laura's brother ended up owing $7,000 in back rent. Now this is all, this is one reason why maybe he's going this way, saying all these things about Laura, even though there were witnesses in the police department that never heard anybody swearing, including Laura. There was a computer consultant, the new one that was hired. He was actually working on the computer, heard everything that happened, and testified that there was no swearing by Laura. He testified that him and Thayer talk on a regular basis, that he goes and sits in Thayer's office after all this happened, and they sit and they talk, and they talk, and they talk. He said he can't understand why she dislikes him, talking about Laura. Upon cross, he says that he never yells. In fact, he didn't yell at Dr. Yarbrough. At the police department, he never yelled. He had no anger. He was calm. He says he kept trying to talk over Laura. Now, if you know about police, they try to take control of the situation by raising their voice. If you raise your voice, they raise it a little harder. If you start swearing or cussing, they'll start swearing and cussing. It's a way for law enforcement to keep an edge over somebody else. Oh, Jesus Christ, you scared me. Somebody just walked by, and it was a white-haired lady. I think it was his, David's attorney. Just, ooh, white-haired ghost. Never mind, that never happened. Oh, my God. All right. He testified he was asked to leave twice, and he didn't believe Laura because of what Scott, the representative Scott, told him. He said the same day we learned of the police report not being filed, that's when we went there. Laura never talked nice. She demanded that I leave, he says. We watched the video. Says he told Thayer to watch the video. Says he would sit down in Thayer's office to chat. I think I said that. Thayer refused to watch the video. Thayer said he would not watch the video. They subpoenaed Representative Scott into this case because they wanted to know exactly what he told Jim, that he thought no police report existed. And in fact, Representative Scott says he's never heard of a Jim. He never had any interactions. No interactions exist. He never spoke to Jim. Jim was making the whole thing up. Next up, we heard a statement from Darlene Lang. She is the 83-year-old cousin that was there with him for her death certificate. She says Jim told her everything. She says Laura said to Jim to stop shouting. She never hears anybody say an F word, including Jim. However, she can't remember much. And she did say Jim never swears. Jim is so polite. He then says, but Laura swore. This is all written testimony, like in a line. First she said nobody swore. Jim didn't swear. Laura didn't swear. And then a few lines down it says, well, Laura actually did swear, but I can't remember if Jim was there or not. She knows her cousin was renting to Laura's brother and owed money. And when she left the office, she claims that Laura called her an old gray-haired bitch as the door closed. In the video, you can see her coming back in, saying something and leaving. She said she came back in to ask Laura if she had anything else to say. In the video, you can see two individuals standing in the office with Laura. Both of those individuals never said anything about swearing. And in fact, there was a third person in the back office nobody ever saw, but he was there, who also said no swearing took place. Disrespect. He felt disrespected. She felt disrespected. She's never been treated this way as an elderly woman. And she went to David Thayer's office. She doesn't remember what she said to Thayer, but I was upset, she says. My memory is not good. She did say Laura never contacted me after to apologize. And that did conclude those statements. We watched the video again with no sound. We went into recess. We came back. There was a sidebar. And, well, that was it. David Thayer took the stand. I'm going to have a sip of coffee here. And rest of this coverage here, we're going to talk about David Thayer. I just saw a donation, $5 donation. Who did that? Let me go back here. $5, what was that? $5.20, does that say? Well, thank you for the $5, Adrene Chavano. Thank you for coverage. Merry Christmas, she says. Well, thank you very much. A couple of people I know are asking exactly what is the super chat. Well, you see her comment there. If you're on your YouTube right now on a computer, you'll probably see that her comment is stuck right up on top. And if anybody else makes comments, they'll probably skip right by it, but hers will stay there. That's what that is. I mean, you can give anything. You give $1, you give $100. You probably give me $1,000 via this, but I don't suggest that. I don't know what you'd want me to do with that, but anyway, that's the whole purpose of that, and I do thank every person that does give anything. All right, so David Thayer took the stand. Obviously, his attorneys did the questioning, and they questioned him from, I think we started this about 11 o'clock, and they did their questioning until it was about 4:15, 4:30. Before the defense, or before the plaintiff took control and started. All right, so why did David Thayer fire Laura? He was asked straight up. He came to the conclusions that Laura would never accept him. Laura would not be in his inner circle. Came to the conclusion after reading Dr. Child's reports that Laura was not the right person. He says it was a rocky road. But due to the sensitivity of the Cochran trial, he didn't fire her at that point because he just didn't want to get, you know, any problems going on. Sensitive to the... oh, here we go. This is the part. Okay. I wish you guys could have seen this, and I wish the news would have been there to catch some of this. Maybe they did. He's got a twitch. He's got a very nervous twitch. It like that. Like, I used to have long hair. I mean, when I got short hair now, but I mean, I used to have long hair down on my backside. I mean, really long hair. And sometimes, you know, especially women too, like when the hair gets in your eye, you know, you twitch your head a little bit to kind of like get the hair out of your eye. He's doing this constantly. Just little twitches. Making faces. Just, there's so many funny things, and he was nervous as hell today, Audra says. She'll tell you. I'm sure there's a few people right now that are watching this chat, that watching this video, that were there in the courtroom. He has this crazy, and you guys, if you're listening to me and you're in the courtroom, type in the comments what he was doing, because I'm not even making this up. This guy had a twitch, like he was trying to readjust his brains. He reminded me of you ever see those videos of when they give drugs to mice? He reminded me of like a bunch of rats in a cage that were being injected LSD, and he was like, just, I'd love to get his court proceedings and just edit the whole thing so he just keeps doing that. You know what I'm saying? All right, enough picking on David. I just couldn't get by that. The guy was just, I don't get it. So he discussed his employment record. He worked for Oakland County. He worked for the American Red Cross as a regional manager for 3 years. He was a Marquette County Aging Services Department head. He was the village manager for Lexington. He was at Grayling. He was a city manager at Grayling from 2006 to 2010. He admitted he was terminated from Grayling due to Social Security Privacy Acts. So, if you research David Thayer in Grayling, Michigan, he was actually fired from that job because he violated some sort of laws with Social Security privacy, election fraud, I thought, or something along that line. I don't know if he released private information that he wasn't supposed to. I believe it was something like that. He talked about an average city manager has a time frame of 4 years. Said he was hired by Iron River. Also Grayling. He talked about a severance package. He got fired from Grayling for criminal offenses, but he got a severance package from that city. His own defense tried to boast about himself, about how well he changed the city, that they were so experienced that nobody knew how to run a city when he got there, that the city was in shambles, and he saved the city from whatever was going to happen. He also said that no city council members have any business experience. He believes that no council members on this city council, Iron River City Council, not one has any business experiences. None. None. I find that hard to believe because most people who sit on the council, most commissioners, actually have businesses. They're a very good part of the community. That's why they're on the councils. So for him to say that they had no business experiences, Department heads. I have department heads. They're my inner circle. When asked who in your inner circle do you believe was the best co-worker, he cites Rachel, the city clerk. He confides in Rachel in everything. She helps him in remembering. She takes notes. She helps him remember things that he might not necessarily remember. He says that she is the closest co-worker he has in the city. He says he sits down to read the city charter all the time. He's read it a few times, and that it was a roadmap for the city. He says he had an open door policy. He talked about reviewing documents through the city, and he also talked about looking at department head inner files. Now, he was looking at all the files of all the department heads, their personal files, just trying to get an understanding about who they were. It might be noted here that in the personal files, all the other department heads, other than Laura, had nothing in there. It was only the resume, or maybe when they applied for the job, that was it. In Laura's case, her file was thick with all sorts of reports that were generated. Many of these reports were generated, as you heard yesterday, from Rachel, the city clerk, who has no say-so at all about Laura's job. Her responsibility is only to the city manager, and when she was writing in these referrals and putting them into Laura's folder, that was something she was doing for Thayer, kind of like the eyes outside of Thayer's head. So if Thayer didn't see it, she saw it, she would write it down, put it into her file as a permanent record. Yet she didn't have anything to do with this, right? He says he reinvented the agenda because the council was doing things wrong. Again, remember, the council has no experience in business. because he came and saved the council, saved the city of Iron River from so much trouble. He's actually a hero. We should be patting him on the back, telling him, good job, David, good job. He says the council was overwhelmed by the agenda. It had too much info contained in it, that they didn't need to see all the info that was required or asked for. He talked about implementing a software program for the payroll, reducing the time it took to do payroll from 3 to 4 days down to literally 3 hours. He says, Kristen, we're talking about now, why did people quit? Why did these people quit? Kristen was an inexperienced treasurer. That's why she quit. The city was in terrible shape when I took over, he says. He also says he did not micromanage. He only did what he felt he needed to do to save the city. Tried to imply that officers weren't doing their job. He tried to say that he was looking at tire tracks, trying to figure out if people were actually... I'm just going to skip over that because that's just a bunch of garbage. He's just trying to bullshit into everything else. There was a PBT account. PBTs, that's when you blow a breathalyzer to a drunk driver, somebody that was convicted for drinking has to come here and they have to blow into the tube, and they charged $1 per blow. And this fund also had deposits made for any time somebody needed a police report, any transactions in the police department, any files that were needed, anything that needed copies or done. That money, cash receipts, were put into the PBT fund, which Thayer says when he found it, he called it a slush fund. He says it was just a private fund for the police just to spend every little dollar they had. Thayer talked about making changes because Laura would spend it on things needed. But we have to remember here that this PBT account was put together by the former city manager, and that when Thayer took over, he had a right to change it. Maybe he did see it as being spent the wrong way. However, he alleges that Laura was spending it illegally. Now, if she was following the direction of the former city manager when she did that, and the new city manager said, no, you're doing it wrong, we need to change that because you're doing it wrong, does it mean she's doing it illegally, or she's just doing it wrong? Because he tried to allege here in court today that she was doing illegal things. He testified Kristen left for a hospital job, that she didn't understand me. She was insecure. It wasn't me, she was. And at the end of the year, the audit and everything else that was coming on, because she didn't have the qualifications necessary and she didn't understand her job, that she quit on her own. He testified Jean Upperstrong also quit on her own, that she was only a hired temporary person. And because he couldn't hire a treasurer, he tried looking, he said he couldn't find one. He actually hired 3 office workers and then promoted the best to treasurer. Which, again, that's normally positions like that are hired outside. And the fact that he picked 3 office workers and then promoted one to treasurer, that's not really, that's kind of bypassing the whole situation, isn't it? Another employee who quit her job. So somebody quit their job. They left, said they're never coming back. Thayer said, well, if you don't come back in 2 weeks, you're going to be fired. Well, they quit their job. I mean, I quit. I quit. What does that mean? I quit. So in some sort of legality process, he filled out termination papers and filed it in her folder. Apparently, if you quit, that means that you've been terminated. Very confusing. We talked about him wanting to go over Laura's file and all of the other stuff that was in there. Apparently, I said that before I even got to that page. There was info in the file that the former manager was going to suspend her, but didn't. There was the report that Laura was filing and putting into the city council was something that the city council actually required her to do, and that it was in her contract that was something she had to do. Well, Thayer thinned down the reports, and she was told not to contact the city council anymore about anything she needed because Laura, he said, was going over her head. I'm going to smoke a cigarette. I'm sorry if that bothers you. You'll just have to skip by that. It's a bad, bad habit. Kids, if you're watching, this is the worst thing you can do. I wake up in the morning coughing, and it just sucks. But I'm an idiot. I'll admit to that. All right, so Laura was asking about the contract. She kept asking the council about the contract. She asked the previous council about the contract. She wanted David to refill out another contract. If Laura wanted something in writing, Thayer would write it for her, for like council stuff. But he kept refusing to write. I don't know why he wouldn't write this contract. He says he allowed the contract to expire. However, the contract was signed by Mayor Tarsi under the previous manager, and in her eyes and in her attorney's eyes, this contract was still legit. She was upset that she was working without a contract, is what I believe, and Thayer says he doesn't understand why she was so upset. Thayer says he told her there is no bargaining unit anymore. You no longer have a safety net. You no longer have a contract, and says Laura actually gave him the ultimatum. Probably because there was no contract. If you're working for somebody and you don't have a contract, would you be afraid of your future there? Would you think that maybe that because I don't have a contract that nobody has to follow the guidelines that were set in place in said contract? That's why she wanted a contract, but he would not do it, would not. So again, in her eyes and in their lawyer's eyes, her current contract should have still been in effect. December 2015 told Laura his firm expectations. Basically said that Laura was accepting that. Laura said, okay, I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to go your way. I don't want to lose my job. I want to stay here, continue working. Let's go. He testified March 2016. Laura said she didn't want officers working from 4 to 7 p.m. Again, I don't know why this was brought in, because does it make sense that any officer wouldn't want to be patrolling in the evenings between 4 and 7? Again, they didn't really get back into this. I hope they do. And David Thayer says Laura didn't understand how the council works. Apparently, all these years that Laura had been dealing with the council, again, she had been doing it wrong. And David Thayer was going to correct her on how to deal with the council. And again, even though in the contract it says she must go to the council with her issues. Oh, let's see what we got here next. I think we went to lunch pretty much at that point, and we came back from lunch. We heard about complaints. These are complaints that David Thayer heard about, that David Thayer got an email about, that David Thayer got a phone call about. Maybe the person came in person. A lot of it is hearsay. However, it was not being used as some sort of evidence against Laura. All right, complaints. Laura wasn't enforcing parking regulations. A woman says she swore at her. Jeanette George says Laura was abusive. wanted to talk to Laura. I'm skipping over that. I'm taking notes during this and scribbling them down, but honestly, some things I wrote down, I don't understand why I wrote it down. They talked about the fair board, that somebody called in an accident, that somebody was doing donuts on the fair property, which was actually county property in the city of Iron River. It was reported to the mayor that Laura would not investigate the accident. There was some understanding that Laura would not investigate things that were county, that the county, that was their responsibility, that the county should be there investigating. But however, this person went to the mayor to report this issue. He did not go to the city manager. Next, we're going to talk about the bitch. That bitch, you bitch. The bitch comment. One, David Thayer stood up in that council meeting. You remember the council meeting 2016 when he stood up in front of everybody and said, I never called her a bitch. It never happened. In fact, he's on TV, on news reports. I never called her a bitch. I suggest whoever says I did that they testify and they come before me and they tell me that they heard it. He admits he said it. 2016, April, bitch. When they first asked him, David was confused, and I can't remember that incident. I don't remember. So they actually had to show him information to help him remember what happened when he called Laura a bitch. Laura was yelling on the phone, he says. He says Laura slammed the phone down on him. And that he was like, oh my God, just slammed the phone down on him. And that he put the phone down gently and said, you bitch. I misspoke there. He says he said that bitch. Other people said he said you bitch. Overall, he said bitch. We'll get back to that. Said she was screaming about longevity on the phone, that she was talking too fast, that he never got a word in. And he's certain that Frizzo never heard him say you bitch or that bitch or bitch in all. Says he gently set the phone down. When asked, why wouldn't you fire her then? You just had a head of department slam the phone down on you. Why didn't you fire her then? Why didn't you fire her then? He said he wasn't too sure. He said it wasn't really a big deal and it was okay. July 2016, quote, it's a female thing. This is why females do not belong in male occupations, or something to that extent. He says she was talking about her divorce. He says, I would never say that to anybody. Doesn't recall anyone asking him about the bitch statement. Again, that he gently set the phone down. He didn't slam it. And that everything was fine. He also talks about a phone call from Laura, a deal with a parking garage. She was trying to get to an emergency. She could not get out of the building because a car was parked in the way of the garage door. Said that she had been trying many times to get a sign put there because nothing was being done. Every time she tried to leave or somebody else tried to leave, if somebody was blocking the door, they couldn't get out. They couldn't respond. They couldn't help anybody. Talked about the pink slipper incident. Says he was coming inside and he swears she was wearing pink slippers. He told Rachel about the pink slippers. Except Laura gave Rachel a picture of blue sandals. They weren't slippers, they weren't pink. They were sandals and they were blue. If you remember that Rachel testified about the confrontation outside where David Thayer got right in the face of Laura, and that Rachel actually sent a message that we read. Said, oh my God, I can't believe he got in your face like that. What did his breath smell like? He says it never happened. I never confronted her. I never went outside after my job. I never got in her face. That was a lie and that it never happened. However, remember, Rachel is his best co-worker. She believes, or he believes, everything Rachel says. Why would Rachel lie about this? Why would his best friend at work lie that, you know, it happened? But he says it didn't happen. September 2016, under Jim Dallas' death certificate, video shows that he went up the front stairs. He says he went up the back, but can't explain what the video shows. So when all this stuff was going on, we watched on the video, you could see David Thayer come in front of the police store. He turned around, he walked back the same direction he came and walked up the stairs in the front. Rachel testified that after that incident, he in fact went up the back stairs and came up. He didn't go up the front. David testified that he went up the back stairs. He didn't come up the front. But the video shows he went up the front. He tried to make it kind of sound like the video was edited. Again, I mean, Rachel said that too. If Laura Frizzo had no computer experience and she was computer illiterate and she didn't know how computers worked, do you think she edited the video? Says Jim explained what happened. Thayer says Jim told him everything. Says Laura was out of line, that when Miss Lang came in, she told him that Laura called her a gray-haired old bitch. That he relied on what Jim and Lang told him. He relied on what Rachel said had been said, talking about the F-bombs that Rachel apparently heard, that he trusts Rachel and he believes her. He refused to watch the video, he says. However, he says today in testimony that he did actually watch it, but it didn't give him anything. There was nothing that could help him. He said that was really the incident that put him over the top. This was way above. He had to take actions. The following day, September 20th, 2016, at a meeting, said she had emotional outbursts, stressed, bad behavior, that he was trying to diffuse the issues. He told Laura the mayor was upset and told Laura that the council wanted her fired. Says that he pointed her finger, told her to sit down, and then she just walked out abruptly out of the room. Says he never tried to push her down in her seat. Says he never went around the desk. He never raised his voice. However, under the testimony of Rachel and the officer that was there, Rachel said he was screaming, and that at one point she wanted to close the door because she felt that she needed to, that David Thayer was raising his voice. Even though David Thayer says, I never shouted once, and yeah. Says he never touched her, he never got angry, but he was tense. Why not fire her then? I'm not sure why, he says. And then she came back later the next day with a note. That was the time off note, to which he said he felt the time off note was a reaction to the outburst. Time off? He says he was okay with that. If Laura wanted to take time off, he was fine with that. Then if Laura had just simply said, hey, I need some time off, David Thayer would have said, fine, take some time off. It wouldn't have required a doctor note. It wouldn't have required a referral. It wouldn't have required a fitness exam. If you just needed time off, you should just ask. Because remember, David Thayer is a really nice guy with an open door policy. So he was given an off work slip. He cited no medical reasons on the slip because an off work slip from a doctor should have a medical reason. Apparently, he still doesn't understand about HIPAA. After 3 days of being gone, he required a doctor's note to return, which I've said before, as a manager at fast food restaurants, if somebody is sick or they're out on leave, we do require a note just to show that I don't want to know what was wrong. I just want to know that a doctor actually was seen and that the doctor gave this person time off. So after 3 days, he required a note. He told Laura that if you do not supply a doctor's note after 3 days, I will accept that is your resignation. Hi, whoever's just honked at me and waved. Yeah, he said if you don't come back and you don't have a slip, I will take that as your resignation. He admits that he got Dr. Yarber's note. He said after reading Dr. Yarber's note, he was suspicious because he says Dr. Yarber wasn't a doctor and he didn't even have a practice here. Now, mind you, Dr. Yarber is the Iron County medical examiner. He was then, and he still is to this day now. He's the medical examiner for this county, to which David Thayer said wasn't a doctor and he was not practicing. So therefore, I'm not going to accept his note. He also said that because Yarber was a friend, he refused to accept it. And now somebody just beeped going back the other way, waving. I don't know. 2 weeks later, he says something is happening. 2 weeks later, he thinks something is happening. Maybe a doctor does know. He's skeptical. Maybe there's more than the doctor. So 2 weeks later, he's like, he believes Dr. Yarber actually might be telling the truth. That maybe Dr. Yarber sees something in Laura that nobody else sees. Maybe Dr. Yarber thinks she's going to have a mental snap or some sort of mental breakdown on the job. So therefore, yeah, so therefore he took the action, and that's when he said, I don't want a doctor note. I don't want anything by a mental doc or by a medicine doctor, but I'm going to need a doctor's note from a shrink, and that is where the fitness exam comes in. So he refused the first doctor's note, giving her time off. He refused the second doctor's note on day 3, citing the issues, saying that he wasn't a doctor, and I'm not accepting that note. And now he says that he wants that third note from his own doctor of his choosing in a fitness exam. The defense tried to lead Thayer so many times. I'll bet you 15 times objections were called, and they stopped her from leading the witness. Thayer testified he knew Laura was struggling and felt bad for her. He felt that he needed to help Laura by paying out the 160 hours in vacation because he cared about her. He says Laura called him and said she was stuck in Indiana during his time off, or during the time off where she was off for the 2 weeks. And Thayer says, Indiana? Why is she in Indiana? She's got a medical issue. She's supposed to be dealing with that here. She's on sick leave. She's supposed to deal with that here. Why is she in Indiana? So she says she's in Indiana, and Thayer, because again, he's such a nice person, arranged so paychecks would be issued a day earlier so Laura could get some money in her pocket so she could get home. He said he just loves to help people and felt that he again needed to help her because she needed financial help. And again, David Thayer is a great person who deserves a slap on the back because he's doing such a good job for the Iron River City. Kept saying that Laura had lied because she was in Indiana on sick leave. She must have been lying. There's no other issue why she must have went to Indiana other than she's lying to me. So he talked about the payroll that they tried to they put out earlier, and he said he was able to do that because they simply just moved money from one account to another. That maybe they had the money for payroll, that the money for payroll wasn't in the account to be paid yet, so they would just simply move this money from, say, the general fund or this fund or that fund. They would shift that money into the payroll fund so those employees could get paid, and then when that money was put in where it was supposed to be, it would be reimbursed back to those different funds, different accounts. Doesn't that sound a little illegal? Said the doctor's note. The doctor's note that he wouldn't accept. Said he wouldn't accept it because of limitations, the limited hours. That he required a medical slip and a fitness exam to return. All I know is she's off at work and she doesn't have a note. Kept talking about suspicions. Talking about where she thought maybe she needed a rest. Thayer was upset because Laura brought an attorney to a meeting. Thayer said he never got the note. He never got the doctor slip, that the one that he refused. He never got it. So Laura resent it. Sitting right there, Laura resent it to him. Then he said the doctor's note, that was the problem because it placed limitations. Placing limitations, that was a problem because overall it means something must have been wrong. There must have been some issue underlining everything, that she could only work that 40 hours. So David needed to understand medically why she couldn't work that time. So he inserted his request for a fitness exam. Never knew what was wrong, but he wasn't going to put the city in a position for a lawsuit. He says the employer has a right to know. That's why he issued the fitness exam. And again, said if Laura ever wanted time off, she should have just asked for it. He would have been that nice person and just gave it to him. Says he read the report twice, the fitness exam. He disagreed with the outcome. He says, but I underlined all the issues that I saw in Laura, and Dr. Childs says he saw the same, but found her fit for duty. He couldn't understand that. He called Dr. Childs to asking, how come you found all the same stuff I did, but you found her fit for duty? I need to understand this. Ultimately, he didn't understand, and ultimately he fired her because she was fit for duty. It's not that she was fit for duty why she was fired, but because of the other things that were listed in the fitness for duty exam. He said he wasn't sure how I was going to fire her, but I knew I was going to at this point. I don't know how to fire somebody. I have to figure out how I'm going to fire her. My suggestion, you're fired. How hard is that? Set her down, you're fired. I fired people. I fired a few people being a manager in the positions I was in. You take them in the back office, you take them in their own private spot. If you feel there's going to be some sort of disturbance, you invite a second manager to be with you. And you tell them, I'm sorry, I have to let you go. You've been fired. I've done it. Why David thinks that was so hard to do, I don't understand. Maybe because if you had to figure out if you were doing it illegally or not, or you need to cover your tracks, or you need to come up with some crazy-ass story, that would be it. They next talked about Jerry, the Iron River reporter, who, by the way, he is watching this testimony. He testified on the very first day, and he's been covering the trial now since. Personally, I think Jerry and David Thayer are like this. They're good friends. I've seen them so many times together here in the courthouse, talking about it, talking about the case. So he talked to Jerry about a story. He said Jerry was going to write some stories, but he wanted to use Jerry. He wanted to use Jerry to get an article out to the people, because if I'm going to fire Laura, I need to explain it to the people, kind of to settle them down, kind of to calm their nerves, so they can understand what's happening. They can understand why Laura is being fired. He said he wanted a biased story because so many were being so unbiased. Must have been me. Yeah. He wanted to, quote, mitigate the shock, unquote. He says Laura was fired for not being a team player. She was fired for going to the council. She was fired because of because of Child's letter, the Dr. Child's letter, her traits. She's fired for her professionalism because she was not in his inner circle and because she challenged David. When he fired her, he didn't call her up and say you're fired. He didn't send a note or an email or text saying you're fired. He didn't invite Laura to the office to say you're fired. He didn't go to where Laura was to say you're fired. Instead, he wrote up a termination letter and hand-delivered it to Laura's attorney across the street from City Hall. Fired her through her attorney. Real classy, real classy. I call that some chicken shit who just is afraid to do it himself. Why believe me? Mr. Thayer, you've said so much. You've talked about so much. Why should this jury believe you? Why? His only answers that he had was 80% of all employees ever under me, 80% were women. And that I've never fired a woman before, but in fact, I've fired men before. At that point, the defense rested and cross-examination began. Again, this is where Laura's attorneys step in and they go at it. Oh man, I wish you guys could have seen it. I wish the cameras would have seen it. I know they're going to start right back in them in the morning at 8:30. Man, if you guys want to see Thayer squirming in his seat, be here tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning because you're going to see some crazy stuff. Never mind me, I'm just watching. I got people walking by me and looking in. I just watching my back. I wish I was in a corner right now just so I could watch out in front of me. Alright. So, cross-examination. We learned about the Elliott. Strange, I'm getting a weird reception here. I don't know what's up. Trying to figure out what this car is doing. They just parked behind me and now they're parking in front of me. And they're backing right up to the very front of me. Okay, whatever they're doing. Anyway, we talked about the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act. It says Thayer admitted that he does not have discretion against Laura, that he cannot just fire Laura. That due to this Civil Rights Act, he has to fire her for reasons specifically that don't violate this act. And basically, he just can't fire anybody for no reason. He has to actually have reasons to fire somebody. Talked about they were talking about the first day of testimony when Jerry talked about saying "you bitch," and then he changed it to "that bitch." So he had talked to Jerry, and Jerry was interviewing him about the comment, the bitch word. He told Jerry, this reporter, at first I used "you bitch." I said "you bitch." Later, he recanted that statement and said, "that bitch." I didn't say "you bitch," I meant "that bitch." We saw a video of a press. I don't know if it was my video. I think it was. I really don't know. It was zeroed in on Thayer, and somebody from the press was asking him about the bitch comment, to which he responded, "It never happened. It never happened. I never said it. Bring your witness here and you tell them that I want..." He went through all that. You can watch the one of three, I think it's the last council meeting I covered when he said that. Then he testifies he was talking about Laura, that she in fact was the bitch that he was referring to. Testified that he gently set down the phone. Rachel said Thayer was screaming. Thayer said, I only got a few words in and I was being calm. Rachel says he screamed. He says Rachel wasn't telling the truth. Remember, Rachel is my best, closest friend. Rachel is my best friend at work. Rachel is my best co-worker. Rachel tells the truth every single time. Rachel said she heard him scream. Rachel said she heard the phone slam down. And then he said, you bitch, or that bitch. But now he's saying Rachel's not truthful. So David Thayer is now saying that the city clerk is not truthful over a different couple stories, that she's confused, that she doesn't understand. I guess she's like all the other people that didn't understand. She probably is like the rest of the city council that have no business experience either, does she? Never said sorry to Laura. Never apologized to Rachel, who heard the word bitch. Never apologized to Nick, the officer, for using the word bitch. To this day, he has never apologized to Laura for calling her a bitch. In March, he was served with a lawsuit. 1 month later, in deposition, while responding to the deposition, he wrote, quote, I said in private, you bitch, unquote. During deposition, he said, you bitch. He then says Laura was told by Nick, the police officer, that she actually didn't hear it. Changed the word, didn't change the story. So that was his excuse. He said because he said you bitch during first testimony, but now he says that bitch. He said, I only changed the word between you and that. I didn't change the story. It happened. I just didn't say it that way. He calls it an involuntary reaction. During deposition, he testified he believes the word bitch is not a derogatory term towards women. He says bitch is not a derogatory term used towards women at deposition. Guess what he says today? Today he agreed. Bitch is a derogatory term used towards women. Flipping. Just, which side should I be on? Remember? Come on, brain. Come on, brain. Get back to work. Shake it. Get it right. I was never schooled that way. That's not the way I was brought up. I don't think bitches against women. Yet, today on the stand, he admits that word was wrong, and it was a bad word, and it's derogatory towards women. Makes excuses to where he said it. Makes excuses because he knew it was wrong. They're saying that the reason you're making excuses, that's the reason you're coming up with all these different reasons about the word bitch, is because you knew it was wrong. Because you knew it was a derogatory word that you're just trying to cover up for yourself now. Again, if you guys like what I'm saying, I see I got 18 thumbs up, 40 people watching. Should be a little higher, more thumbs up maybe, I don't know. Just saying it. Asking for a friend. He will not admit that he lied at depositions. He says, my words are being twisted. My words are being twisted. It wasn't me. He never intended for Laura to know or hear that he called her a bitch. Plaintiff asks if Laura plaintiff says if Laura knew that you called her a bitch, or even if Laura heard you call her a bitch, might she see that as a threat? And he agreed, yes. If Laura knew that I called her a bitch, or Laura heard it, she might actually perceive that to be a threat against her. If you got kids watching, I'm going to drop an F-bomb. So if you got little kids watching, scoot them out of the room, or put on your headphones or something, because we're talking about the word fuck. It's funny because I hear the word and I instantly go to George Carlin. Rest in peace, George. God, what a great comedian he was. And if you've never heard him talk about the word fuck, I suggest going to YouTube, looking up George Carlin and fuck, because you got to watch it. If you've never seen it, please, after this video, go watch it. Trust me, you will crack up laughing. It's the best ever. So Amanda testified. All right, well, let's go back. Someone said the word fuck, and David says, I don't like that word. Please don't use that word in front of me. That is not a nice word. Do not use that word. I, David, do not use that word myself. In testimony, Amanda said, David uses the word fuck. Says she's heard it before. Thayer says he doesn't agree, and he will not say that Amanda's lying. So Amanda's saying that David said fuck. David Thayer says he doesn't agree with what Amanda says, but says that Amanda, he won't say that Amanda's lying. And he talks about this day and age. This day and age. I've heard that so much. Is that something politicians and city workers and people in authority use? This day and age. Why not apologize? Why haven't you apologized? Why haven't you gone up to Laura and apologized? He says he thought the matter had passed. That if you call somebody a bitch and it goes over a couple of days and nothing's said, that the matter must have just been passed. And to this day, even the plaintiff at the trial today said, even today, even right now, you're still not telling Laura you're sorry. And he zipped it, just didn't say anything. They asked about the thing about women don't blend in men's profession. He says he didn't recall ever saying that. In fact, he laughed. When they asked him, do you remember saying women don't belong in men's profession? He says, I don't recall saying that, and then chuckled, and he laughed. He actually laughed, and the juror saw it, I saw it. Everybody was like, why are you laughing? That wasn't even the appropriate time. Why? What was going on up here that made you laugh? He says he recalls the details of that, but he can't remember if he said it. I can't remember if I said it. Pink slippers. Rachel testified Thayer got into Laura's face. Thayer said it never happened. It's not true. It did not happen. I can't recall it. I don't remember. And again, shakes his head, twitches in his face, eye socket here, this and that. You kept seeing these issues going around. Talked about the garage issue again. The no parking sign. Says Laura called yelling. Here's some fun instances. So Laura reported this parking sign that she couldn't get out, that sometime she may have needed to respond in an emergency and she could not get out. She was stuck in the police station. David Thayer says he would fix it. It wasn't a big issue. He never took her serious. 3 times she asked. Never took her serious. The new police chief gets hired, Chief Bristol, and upon asking the very first time about that, can we have a sign placed? Can we do this? David Thayer took action the very first time a male officer asked. Yeah, I got a problem. I like to smoke cigarettes. Sorry. So Laura asked twice, 3 times. Nothing was done. The current police chief asked once. It got done. Deposition cites Laura making a mistake, which was her error. They were talking about the same thing, the sign, the doorway. David Thayer said that it was Laura's mistake, that this issue with the door was her error, that if she knew it was an error, maybe she shouldn't have been parking inside of the garage. All police departments have a garage. It's due to security. It's due to keeping things safe. You can keep a squad car unlocked in a locked garage. You can't keep a squad car unlocked on the street. Says he could not remember anything about the deposition. He complained, said that she only complained twice, but I can't remember now. Suggests that Thayer was ignoring requests about Laura concerning safety concerns. So it was brought out that if you wanted to fire somebody, if you wanted them to quit, or you just wanted to make their life a living hell, that you would just ignore any requests. That she asked 3 times, he didn't do anything. That maybe they were suggesting that Thayer was hoping that she would flip out and then he could fire her. That pretty much concluded the testimony today. They were done 5:30. Tomorrow we will be getting going again at 8:30 in the morning for day 9 of this trial. I'm happy I still have a voice. I think my coffee's been helping me on that. So what do we got? It's been an hour and 10 minutes streaming. I was pretty close. I said about an hour, didn't I? Again, thanks a lot to everybody here now that are watching. I appreciate each and every one of your views. I appreciate the 21 thumbs up. I hope that goes up. And before I say anything more, let's check over your chat, because I know that there is a lot of chat that I saw go by. All right, let's see here. Audrey thanks me for being here. You're welcome. Again, thank you to Adrian Shabo for the $5 super chat. Thank you for your coverage. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, and thank you. Audrey says he was nervous as hell today. Yes, he was nervous. Meth twitch, laugh out loud. You're right. It was kind of like a meth twitch. Somebody that's on pills, or somebody that's just got a situation going on. I don't know. Maybe he's concerned about lying. Why these cigarettes keep going out. I don't know how many times his hands were on his face. You are correct. Do you wear the same clothes every day? No. As a matter of fact, I've been wearing this one just as a pullover. I'm not wearing a jacket. I've got something underneath here, and as a matter of fact, I've got a t-shirt underneath this. I wear this outside. This is just like a pullover jacket. I probably wear it a lot. Maybe not to your standards. Too bad. Dude, it's UP. We wear hoodies. Your comment is dumb. Yeah, I agree with you, Audrey. If you dress the same and look the same every day, you might be homeless. Well, whatever. I wonder if Jason will panhandle us for money before the video is over again. What do you think? Homeless. Trolls with the troll. Love trolls. Everybody hates trolls. I love trolls. I will tell you, I love the trolls. We all know Sakura is a troll, is at work, working harder than all of us combined. Right now, he never stops. Troll. Well, you know what? A troll will share something he doesn't believe in. If he thinks that your video or your content is not acceptable in his eyes, he will share it on his Facebook, he'll tweet it, he'll Instagram it, he'll post it on his friends' things. Everybody will see it. Those of you that like me right now, that like what I'm doing, how many times have you shared my videos? How many times have you talked to your friends about my videos and about how good of a job I'm doing? If we take the trolls and we take the people that like us, like me, trolls will be way up here. It's just a fact. I don't mean anything against anybody, but it is a fact. Same thing in the restaurant industry. If somebody does not like a sandwich, they've had a tomato put on when they've asked for no tomato, they will complain to 10 people about that problem. If they have a sandwich that they love, it was the best sandwich ever, they might tell 1 or 2. Those are the odds. Trolls, negativity will always get more views. 6 to 6 is a pretty long day at work. Well, I'll tell you what, I got up at 6:30 this morning, left the house at 7:45, got here, well, a little before 9. It's currently 7, and I won't be home until 8, so figure that out on your own. Strolling through here. Jason, you're fired. All right, sure. If I'm fired, you can leave. Clearly a lack of mental health care in the UP. Absolutely true. I'm just going to start avoiding Socrates. Maybe Jason was arrested for loitering. What the hell? Apparently he doesn't like me F-bombing him. Oh, well. Apparently some people are affected by that word. He had a hard time remembering everything. That is correct. 23 total thumbs up, 1 thumbs down from the channel troll. Thank you very much. Doing this PayPal is something they do not permit. Doing this with PayPal is something they... I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. Oh, LBL. Is that you, Larry? Larry the sex offender. Is that you? We've been hearing a lot of stories about Larry the sex offender. LBL. Larry is from Iron River, and he's a sex offender. I'm almost positive that's who Larry is. So, yeah. Apparently, Larry is going to report me for dropping an F-bomb. Ooh, I'm so scared. Oh, my God. They do allow super chat, just hit the money. That's absolutely right. Everybody does super chat. I've seen it all over YouTube. I've been telling her the true north facts. Stephanie, I've been telling her about the true north and the fact that neighbor thinks they ate the ring. Okay, yeah, let's not get into that. That's kind of gross. All right. Audrey, I will see you in the AM. Everybody else, again, thank you so much for joining me on this live coverage of day 9. Join me tomorrow, hopefully, for the conclusion of this trial, where I can tell you that Laura was awarded some money and David Thayer was found against. That's my hope. That's my prayers. Again, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Go over to my Facebook page. Check out all the stuff I post there. There is a lot right now I'm posting because there are a lot of truths coming out in trial because Mayor Tarsi, I posted earlier this morning at about 9:20 a.m. Mayor of Iron River, Michigan lied, allegedly lied on the stand in this court case. This mayor testified that his son and his grandson have never been awarded contracts for the city. They are not working or doing any work for the city, and he testified to that. Well, Mr. Mayor, can you please explain to us why it is that your son and your grandson were awarded contracts in your city? Can you say why your son and grandson have been seen hauling debris using their construction crews, using their equipment, working for the city? Mr. Mayor, I think you should be brought up on contempt charges because you lied in court. I hope it comes out. I honestly hope it comes out. So check out Facebook. I've got all sorts of things posted. Check out Instagram. I do post a lot there. Twitter, everything I post on Facebook on a multitude of different pages actually gets shared right to Twitter. People are being able to see that. Make a comment below. Right now or whenever, make a comment below. I will try to respond back to every single comment. And make sure you're a subscriber, because if you're a subscriber, you'll know when I post content. And if you click that little bell, I think I'm pointing to the right side, right up here. Click that little bell, notification bell, you'll know when I go live. And to appease the trolls and anybody else that enjoys the content that I provide, if you like what I'm doing, if you appreciate what I'm doing, and you want, you can donate money via PayPal, that link as well, all the way down on the bottom. And again, if you like my content, you like what I'm doing, and you feel that you want to give, please do. I do want to thank Gary from Virginia. Gary donated $200 last night to my PayPal via that link. Thank you so much, Gary. I did take that $100 that you asked me, and I gave it to Laura. He asked me to give Laura a $100 Christmas present from Virginia, from him, with his prayers, his love, and his compassion for Laura, which I did today. She was very thankful, and I could tell that she was a little touched by what Gary did. Thank you, Gary. I will, again, actually take my wife out to dinner on that money. Also, Russell, I'm not going to say last names, Russell, thank you for that $25 donation as well. And again, if anybody else feels they want to donate, you can. The link is below, but it's not a requirement. I don't care if you do. If you happen to and you don't want me to mention your name or you don't want me to name drop you, please tell me, because I feel it's my responsibility that I mention it. I feel that I need to I need to acknowledge that I have it, that I accepted it. So that's all there is. Again, thank you a lot for continuing to follow me and this story and the coverage that I'm providing. And have a beautiful night, everybody. Again, testimony will begin tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. here in Iron County, Michigan. If you want to come up, be part of the trial, please do. Today we had people from all over the UP, including Green Bay, Wisconsin. And yeah, awesome people to talk to. Laura was giving signatures today. She signed the back of somebody's shirt. God, what a fantastic woman. Again, thank you. Thumbs up, subscribe, comment. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Have a beautiful night wherever you are in the world. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.